This is an extract from the Leader Coronavirus Daily podcast by the Evening Standard and hosted by me, David Marsland. To hear the whole thing, search for it on your podcast provider. Standing on the South Bank, the Globe Theatre is one of London's most iconic landmarks, as well as being an international cultural giant. And now it's under very real threat. It says the coronavirus pandemic has left it critically vulnerable, and it urgently needs £5 million just to keep running. Our editorial column says it is worth saving.
The horrible truth is that in London's theatres there are no plays now. There may be no plays for the rest of the year. And in some, there may never be plays again. The Globe Theatre, which has kept up high artistic standards while drawing in audiences from all over the world, has not qualified for Arts Council England help. London without the Globe would be a less joyous city. The story of its reconstruction is one of the miracles over the last few decades. Adversity will produce inspiration. Plays can be performed outdoors, online, perhaps even in drive-in venues. A city full of actors, directors and technicians will find a way to keep performing. For most, it's never been about the money anyway. Let's hope the Globe lasts, so it can prove that Shakespeare at the end of The Tempest was not telling of a dark future when he wrote, "Our revels are now ended. These our actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits, and are melted into air, into thin air."
The Evening Standard's arts editor Nancy Durrant joins me over Zoom. And Nancy, the situation faced by the Globe truly does appear dire, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is in dire straits, and people are always very surprised to discover that the Globe does not get a penny of public funding. I mean, it looks like a publicly funded organisation. It does a lot of education work. It does lots of community work. You know, they only take interns from their local area, from Southwark, things like that. You know, they're very much on that sort of side of things. When you come into Heathrow, it's on the walls. It's, you know, it's part of the cultural fabric of London in a way that very few theatres could really say that they are. I mean, even the National Theatre, I think, is not necessarily, doesn't have that sort of sexy historical magic that the Globe has got. But at the end of the day, all their money comes from visitors.
Yeah, it is a landmark in London. It's actually not our oldest theatre by quite some distance. It's actually
a very long way.
It's a fairly new theatre. But could you imagine the South Bank without it?
Well, no. I mean, this is something I was going to say. It's an amazing looking thing. I think people are just so excited to see it. It's got that sort of kind of intangible whiff of history about it, even though it is absolutely brand new and handmade by contemporary people who are definitely still alive. But it, you know, the thing is, with performances, the Globe is a place of magic, essentially. It is a place where sorcery can in fact be achieved. Without performances, though, I mean, you're not going to knock it down. What does it become? It becomes a naff novelty wedding venue. I mean, that's not all right. You know, we can't let that happen. I mean, not that I think that it would be naff to have your wedding there now, or well, maybe not now, but, you know, only if it's still a working theatre. Otherwise, it's just a fake.
And it is a lot of people's first introduction to actual theatre itself, not just Shakespeare, because it does have that £5, go and stand in the Globe, go and watch some incredible acting and great directing. We would lose that too. We would lose access to affordable theatre.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of another theatre, certainly not another theatre on that scale, with that kind of consistent quality, where you can get a ticket for £5. I mean, that's insanely cheap, especially in London. You know, you definitely can't get a ticket for £5 to any West End show. That's literally impossible. I mean, what would be the point? It's an incredible place in that respect. And I think they give about 2 million quid's worth of free tickets to school kids every year. They get 139,000 students coming in. And a lot of those kids will not have been to the theatre before. It's a completely unique experience, and one which has been proven, in fact, to inspire people Andre Holland, who is an actor who was in Moonlight, he appeared as Othello opposite Mark Rylance. Now, 20 years before, Andre Holland had come here and gone to the Globe and written a fan letter to Mark Rylance saying how amazing he thought it was. And then 20 years later, he was on the stage and it was an absolute dream for him. There are lots and lots of actors who will say, actually, the first time I ever went to theatre, it was the Globe and I fell in love with it.
I wonder if the theatre is saved, I wonder if it will have problems getting people back in because of that unique selling point, in fact, of being able to stand in amongst the crowd, get right up close to the actors. Are people going to want to go back into that situation where you are literally shoulder to shoulder with a lot of people watching a play?
Well, I suppose in a way, I would be more concerned about theatres that only have seats. I think all theatres are going to find this problem. There is no viable economic way of selling only enough tickets for people to sit 3 seats apart. You can't do that in a theatre. It won't work. It's not worth opening. It costs the Globe, it would cost, to open the building for the public for a show, would cost £5 million simply to get the thing open. I mean, it costs an absolute arm and a leg to have a theatre in existence. And if you just can't sell that many tickets, then I don't know what they're going to do. But they're not in a unique position that way. And in a way, at least if you're standing in the central area as a groundling, at least you can stand apart from each other because there is actually quite a bit of space. Whereas when you're sitting down, it's not so easy, especially on those bloody awful benches, which are unbelievably uncomfortable.
You can take a cushion, Nancy.
Yes, that's true.
Or hire one.
When it reopens, buy a seat at the back because you can do that.
Is there an argument for the culture sector, all of it, to, after this, get much more government support, much more government funding?
I mean, I think so, but I would say that, wouldn't I? I do think that it makes an enormous difference to the health of the nation to have a healthy culture sector. Although I don't think it should be the responsibility of artists to help us to see our way through things, because of course they are part of us, they are people as well, and they need to find their own way through. It is inevitable that the work that they make will be a way for us to find our to help us work through what madness we are actually going through at the moment. I mean, sometimes it feels quite normal sitting in my little flat, looking out the window, doing my work on my computer, and it feels kind of okay, but actually out there is complete madness, and the world is not going to be the same. And so art of every kind is in the future going to help us to work out how we feel about things, how we ought to feel about things, why it's okay to feel the ways that we feel about things, and also it's going to encourage us. It's good for the economy. What are you going to do if you lose the culture sector? Nobody's going to come here. You don't just go to London to go walk down Oxford Street or Bond Street and shop. I mean, hardly anybody does that. People come here for the National Gallery, they come here for the Globe, they come here for the National Theatre, they come here to see stuff and experience stuff. It needs to be allowed to be a large part of how this city recovers.
Search for the Leader Coronavirus Daily on any podcast provider to hear more from the podcast.